had a number of questions in for our panelists, which I'm going to ask them each a question each, and then I'll open up this discussion to the floor. But just briefly to introduce the panel, to my right is Tamara Howe, who's the controller for comedy and entertainment in the BBC. She also is on the board of the Prince's Trust, as well as on the Creative Skill Sets TV Council, and is chair of the talent scheme on the Edinburgh TV Festival. To her right is Tom Box, who co-founded the animation company Blue Zoo Animation 15 years ago with 3 of his buddies, and wrote on 15 years later, they're one of the biggest animation studios in the country, and they've picked up a few BAFTAs along the way. And my furthest right is Ian Livingstone, who you might be aware of. He's been behind Lara Croft Tomb Raider. He's penned 15 of the Final Fantasy, selling over 17 million copies. So please, thank you very much for joining us here today. So to kick off the questions from Hiive, Tamara, how do you feel the YouTube generation has changed the game in employment in the creative industries, maybe with particular reference to TV?
I think Charlotte hit on it earlier, the kind of, it's taken down the barrier to entry, sort of cut out the middleman, the commissioner. So not only can you get access to low-cost technology, that means you can make your own stuff, you can actually publish it, and that's really sort of leveled the playing field. A lot of people who would have felt that they couldn't get access to the industry, couldn't showcase their stuff, there's nothing stopping them now, and they're keeping us on our toes. And you'll notice BBC Three is looking to move online, and you can only just see it getting bigger and better the whole time, and it's really refreshing. It's good news for us.
Cool. Tom, a question for you. What's the current talent pool like in the animation industry in the UK? Are you able to source all your talent locally, or do you have to go overseas to get people in?
There's thousands of great artists out there, so we're in a fantastic place in the UK at the moment. One of the problems is we just can't find enough animators. So it's, if you guys want to get into animation, then there is lots of opportunities available. I think one of the problems we have is just finding the people. That's why sites like Hiive are fantastic, because getting into the industry is all about networking, and you want to attend as many kind of events and go on as many kind of like networks like Hiive, so you can actually contact the right people, because it's finding that connection is the trickiest thing, and promoting yourself as an employee. And because on the internet, one of the problems, there's so much, the signal to noise ratio is so bad. Just trying to find the stuff you want gets very hard. So it's critical you use every single tool you can to kind of jump ahead of the crowd and get your name to who you need to get it to.
Cool. And Ian, we've got a 2-part question here. What's your kind of favourite game that you've been involved in creating or launching? And then secondly, how important is collaboration between creative industries?
Favourite game? That's a tough one. That's like asking what's my favourite child, and I've got 4 of them. I presume the first most important game in my life, I think, was Dungeons & Dragons. I helped launch Dungeons & Dragons in the UK in 1975, before most of you were born. But I was very lucky enough to follow my passion of playing games and of turning it into a business of making them. And the one thing I would always recommend to everybody is to follow your heart. It's not always easy. In the early days of Games Workshop, Steve Jackson, my business partner, and I, we slept in a van for 3 months because we weren't able to raise finance. But if you're really passionate about what you're doing and you're not afraid of failure, failure is just success, work in progress. You will learn from your mistakes and will build a great future for yourselves. But getting back to games, obviously Dungeons & Dragons, obviously Tomb Raider, but these days I'm helping the next mobile games generation become the next big thing. And also because of the internet, we're now able to access global markets through super high-speed broadband. So there's never been a better opportunity for young creatives to come together to build digital content that they can serve to these audiences around the world. And you can crowdfund your ideas, and then you can serve it. The traditional gatekeepers that stood in your way in the analog world are no longer there in the digital world. So these are fantastic times for people to take their idea, validated, and if you don't succeed, go again. Remember, Angry Birds was not Rovio's first game, it was their 51st game. So do not be afraid of failure, just go for it. What was the second part? I can't remember.
The second part was about creative industries collaborating together, and do you think that's kind of an essential way that all the industries are going? So if you're currently making a game, do you feel you need to consider other industries if you're making it?
Well, I think it's very important that the creative industries have been brought together as a single sector to be seen in the same light as pharmaceuticals and automotive and financial sectors. Because before, too long ago, the creative industries were seen as sort of fluffy industries run by lovies. It was never seen as a proper career choice. And we are so creative as a nation. Look at our film, our fashion, our music, our publishing, our theatre, our games, our architecture, our design. We are the envy of the world. What we have to make sure is that we do collaborate, and coming to meet together through Hiive is a perfect example, powered by creative skill set. This is a fantastic initiative. And you can find like-minded people. I think games embody collaboration in its fullest sense. Programmers and artists and animators, storytellers, cameramen, lighting, artificial intelligence programmers, coming together to make this fantastic cinematic interactive experience serving to global markets. So collaboration is key to success of the creative industries, and I'm delighted that Health is going to help drive that collaboration forward.
Yeah, Tom?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Tamara, if I wrote a script, how would I get it to the BBC, and how would I get someone to consider it even to be commissioned?
If you wrote a script, now the BBC doesn't. The question was, if he wrote a script, how would he get it to be commissioned at the BBC? The first thing to say is the BBC doesn't take pitches directly from individuals. What they do recommend is that you team up with an existing producer, independent producer, or even maybe an in-house department to help you bring your idea to them. So finding an independent that makes shows that may have a sort of bit of a synergy with the idea that you've come up with, it would be a good thing. The other thing is the BBC has a website called the Writers' Room, where they are happy to read your script. They promise to read the first 10 pages and give you feedback and also pass you on to other people in the industry if that's the case. So yeah, that's one way in, hooking up with an independent who's already got the contacts and the credibility.
Cool. Any more questions? Well, we actually had plenty more kind of come through Hiive itself, so kind of general questions to the panel. How easy would you say it is now for people of any backgrounds to pursue a career in creative industries? And do you feel there's more opportunities now than for when you guys started off?
I'd say it's easier than ever, just because, for instance, when I was starting back kind of 15 years ago at university, we didn't have YouTube or Vimeo or anything, so you had absolutely no idea what other kind of the next university, the next city, or the other side of the world were doing. So it's really kind of like just take advantage of having that wealth of information, because kind of getting good at creative skills is all about kind of practicing. And the best way of improving yourself is kind of like watching things like YouTube and stuff to get better. But what was the question? I've talked about?
Do you find it's much easier to get into the industries nowadays
That's it.
Yeah, and you're saying yes?
Yes, it is. Yeah, just pure communication, like I said earlier, it's all about just getting yourself out there and having that online presence. So, because no one's going to come and find you for a job,
yes.
You've got to go and find a job. So it's utilising that to the most.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot easier than when I started out 30 years ago. There were so many more platforms. If you turn on your TV, you can get 500 channels. Yeah. When I grew up, there were just the 4. So there's a huge amount of outputs, not to mention the whole YouTube phenomenon. Lots of opportunity. However, it is still very tough and it's very competitive, and the market has changed quite a lot, certainly in TV. It used to be a job for life. You work at the BBC. Now it's a freelance contract that lasts 3 months. Yeah. So there are economics that kind of make it quite tricky for some people. So yeah, lots more opportunity, but I think equally as tough once you get in to stay in. It requires a lot of hard work, talent, and of course passion.
I'd say it's definitely easier to get in, but at the same time, I think creatives have to understand the business of creativity. A lot of creatives need and should go further down the value chain of owning their own intellectual property, but also understand how they should partner with people who do the things that they don't want to do or are not able to do. So as long as you don't give up creative control, don't let the bean counter tell you what next film or game you should be making, you should be in a good place. But don't try and do everything 100% yourself, because you'll end up with a very cottage industry mentality and you'll never scale your own potential. So Understanding what you're good at, do that, but what you're not so good at or don't want to do, make sure you partner with somebody who can do that for you.
I think that point about the business is a really key one. If you look at the industry, certainly from the TV perspective, how much it's blossomed, a lot of it has not just been within the UK, it's globally, and it's the commercial side of television, owning your own IP and exploiting it. We bring a huge amount, the creative industry brings a huge amount of money back into the UK through those avenues as well. So it is a business as well as a creative passion and hobby.
I think just to add to that, I think because it's now so much easier to promote yourself and get yourself out there and to apply for these all these roles, it means that it's easier for everyone, which means it's a lot harder to get those positions because they're just a lot more accessible than they were kind of 10 years ago. So I think to do that, I think it's been touched on a few times, is you've got to do what you do, but do it amazingly well, and then you will be able to get there. So try and, just specialise in doing one thing amazingly.
The competition means that you have to be good at what you're doing. Qualifications are all very well, but you need real skills to be able to execute on your ideas. Everyone has an idea, but it's execution of the idea that's the hard bit.
But yeah, just kind of touching on that kind of competitive market, and kind of we heard from Ash earlier on that initially when he was launching his career was a lot of failure at the start. And for you guys, have you ever had to deal with rejection or failure, and like how have you dealt with that? And what would you give someone who's trying to start a career and they're trying in this very competitive market to kind of keep going?
I think you should never give up. If you believe in something and you follow your heart and you're true to yourself, you will find an audience of like-minded people. But just don't give up. I mean, we have a tendency to give up, and we shouldn't. We should not be afraid of risk, not be afraid of failure. I remember trying to raise finance, you've got to look at different models. Going into the bank is likely going to be unsuccessful. The banks weren't built to understand creative industries because they can't measure it. Our assets are intangible. We don't have the bricks and mortar to secure against bank overdraft. I remember going into the bank many years ago to raise money to expand Games Workshop, my first games company, and saying, we've got this great game, it's a role-playing game, it's a Dungeons and Dragons, you take on the role of a hero, fighter, and you go on the incredible journeys of the mind, and he looks at you all like a dog watching television and ushers you out of the door as quickly as possible. So try and find other ways, whether it's crowdfunding, get some nice angel who understands what you're trying to do, and go that route.
I think it's a vital part of being creative is to embrace failure, because you can only get better at what you're doing by trial and error and finding what works well and what doesn't work well. So, use the internet, use things like YouTube to post your work and ask for people to critique it. And they may tell you it's rubbish, but at least you can then find out why it's rubbish and do a better job next time. That's how you get to become successful at something.
Yeah.
I think just echoing what these guys have said, it's important to be brave, and it's important to step outside your comfort zone. I know when I start feeling nervous about something, slightly sicky, or frightened by something, that's probably the time that I should do it. So when you've got ideas or you've got jobs you want to go for, or someone lays down a challenge, I'd always encourage you, go with your gut. If it's feeling that sort of edgy, then it's probably the right thing to do.
I think that's an awesome piece of advice. If you do feel awful inside yourself, then keep going and try and conquer that. And then, maybe finally, just all of you in general, we've had this question a bit. People's lives are always very busy, and how do you find time, all this kind of thing. So what are your top tips to finding time and space to be creative? Do you need to create an environment, and how do you give yourself the time to do it?
I'm really bad at that, but I find that I'm at my most creative when I'm least expecting it. It's when I'm lying down, watching television, something mindless, when I'm in the shower, in the middle of the night. If I try and sit down and carve aside creativity time, it doesn't tend to work for me. I feel like I'm under a bit too much pressure, and I think there's some science in that. So I think giving yourself time to breathe, whether that's leaving the office and going for a walk, taking time out, just to allow things to come to you rather than obsessively trying to be creative. That's my personal tip.
Cool.
Don't sleep.
Okay.
Just watch stuff on the internet all day and all night. No, seriously, I think it's vital just to watch as much stuff online as you can, because I think most creatives say all their best ideas come from their subconscious, and what makes the subconscious thrive is just feeding it, full of as much inspiring or just rubbish, because you never know how when that kind of mishes up kind of mixes together, it will create new ideas. So it really is vital just to watch as much stuff as you can, because you never know when it will be useful in coming up with new ideas.
Cool.
I believe that everybody is creative. It's just finding your own element and executing on your own ideas. We all dream, we all think, we all have these ideas, but as I said earlier, it's the execution of the idea that's often the hard bit. So you have to go for it and learn from your mistakes, and until you find your audience and find your passion, just never stop doing it. And it's a 24/7 process.
I think we have a question from the gentleman in the grey hoodie there.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I was saying. We are all creative. We all have our own ideas, our own individual ideas, and trying to be yourself rather than try and do or repeat what's already been done in history. But too often we don't have the belief to be able to execute on ideas, or we're told we're not creative, or through the education system where it's becomes more about conformity rather than diversity. But I think the UK has a fantastic environment in which creativity is allowed to flourish, from the rich art and cultural heritage that we have, through to the BBC, through to our diversity, through the cosmopolitan cities that we have. We exchange a lot of ideas, and I think that's the bedrock and the raw materials of creativity, our diverse thinking, our self-expression, and our self-determination. This is how creative industries flourish.
Good, thank you very much. I think we're going to have to wrap it up here just now, but I want to say a massive thank you to Tamara, Tom and Ian for joining us here today. Thank you very much. We've got some very good news in the form of food, which is going to be served at the back there, and I'm sure it's rather delicious. But quickly, before you go and get some delightful food, I just want to point out a few things around the room. So over my left-hand side here, you see some lovely drawers. So what we did was we went and, with photographer Harry Mitchell, captured some creatives' top drawers and found out what the kind of tools they use to carry out their trade. So by all means, have a little browse and see what it is they use. But we do have a little competition. So if you fancy winning a GoPro, tweet us a picture of what's in your top drawer and the tools you use to make up your kind of projects. And if you get that tweet into us with the hashtag what's in your top drawer before Friday, you get a chance to win a GoPro. Then you'll also see around the room various different kind of pieces of work, such as this thing, this wonderful painting here by Sophie Fretwell. They've come from Hiive Remix. So Hiive Remix was a competition we ran where we asked people to come up with a modern twist on a classic approach or an idea. So she looked at the Ukrainian parliament, the famous scene with the fighting, and saw the Fibonacci spiral within it. And then she recreated that with the British leaders of today. So by all means, definitely have a good look at that. Over here, you'll see Nicholas Fellows sent an email in to Hiive Remix saying he was sick of his arse hanging out, and that has resulted in that. So he was in hospital, and he was not happy with the hospital gains. So what he's done is taken kind of the classic colours and patterns and recreated them as what you see here today. Over by the wonderful Kate O'Connor there, by the wall, you will see there's an iPad stand there, and there's a short film that was created by Katie Fallon, who wrote a wonderful piece of prose around thinking of her two favourite authors, Charles Dickens and Jane Austen, and how, if they were in today's world, how they would have to deal with social media and what that has to bring. So it's a fantastic watch, so I encourage you to watch it. And finally, down the back of the room, you'll see Mike Smith, who's taken some really famous paintings, and what he's trying to do is take kind of a minimalistic and simple approach to them by taking kind of elements out of the paintings without taking away the meaning. So definitely check that out. Finally, you'll see there's this gigantic Hiive corkboard thing over there, and that's another wonderful little competition for you. So a lot of companies are coming to Hiive and they want to know, obviously, to offer up kind of job opportunities, but they also want to get your ideas and your concepts and validate things. So the good people at Escape the Studios have a creative brief for you guys, and if you start pinboarding up your post-its of the brief, we'll be giving away prizes for the best ideas to meet their brief. So by all means, take in all the stuff that's around the room and enjoy lunch, and I will see you back in about 30 minutes' time.